Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I have a beer in hand, just so everybody knows. But yeah. So my name's Sam Teeden. I'm actually born and raised in Charlotte. One of the, I guess, few and far between. A couple years ago, I was actually with a firm called Frontier Capital, which is a B2B kind of software investment firm here. And back in October, recently transitioned to open up the East Coast office for a firm called Anthos Capital. So we are a minority growth equity fund based here in now Santa Monica is home base, and East Coast offices here. We are generalist investors, so invest across a whole variety of not only verticals and industries, but also stages, very opportunistic as we approach investing. And check sizes can vary from a $3 to $4 million Series A to a $60-70 million kind of later stage minority investment. So, I've been, as the transition has happened from Frontier to Anthos, really been looking to get more involved in the Charlotte ecosystem. It's kind of weird being in a place where you grew up and seeing and finding out whole different, new people to meet and fun ecosystems to get involved in. So thank you all for having me.
That's great, Sam. Thanks for joining us, introducing yourself. It's always great to have more investors in Charlotte, so that's fantastic. Mike, I want to toss it over to you.
Yeah, before I call on mine, I want to give a big plug to Middle James Brewery. They're in Pineville. They opened about last year, and they just bought a canner. So now they're pivoting to actually selling their own beer canned. So you can place an order online, and they'll bring it out to your car, and it's great. They also sponsor my hockey team. Not that we're playing hockey right now, but we got to give a plug to them. It's the Great Musa. I see Attila. He's still clean shaven. I want to hear about what he's doing. He's clean shaven because he doesn't have to go out and buy razor blades because he just cleans them at home, right? So Tell us a little bit about how your last few weeks have gone.
So I'm unmuted, correct?
Yep.
All right. Okay, great. So, well, thanks for asking. Yes, everything has come to a complete halt. We had about 3 investors that we were talking to right before the pandemic and the outbreak kind of became really publicly known. Respectfully, they have kind of held back for the time being to understand their own well-beings. But what we've done is really just try to be creative, and I'm using some volunteers for work that we had to pay to do in the past. And in exchange, we might give these volunteers some equity in the company for helping us out during these times. I just got off a webinar earlier today, and they said that early startups like myself, who are still pre-seed and pre-revenue, it's very hard to go out to bigger investors because they're right now worried about their own existing portfolios. So the best strategy is to probably go back out to your existing investors if you have any. Unfortunately, we already have 2. Because they already have skin in the game and they already have a stake in the company. So they obviously don't want to see everything go under. So the best chances for us to get some more funding to kind of weather the storm for the next 2 or 3 months is to go back. So I'll be setting up a very formal conference call with the existing investors, the partners, and then a couple of those investors that are very close to pulling the trigger right before COVID-19 to hopefully have some sort of a mutual understanding with all the cards on the table, and try to come up with the best scenario for everyone, including the company, to move forward. So
cool. Thank you. Thanks for that update. That's very insightful for sure.
All right. I guess it's my turn. I want to show off. I'm drinking a Burial beer from Asheville. I don't know if you can see it in my green screen here. It's a good one. And in a Lucid Travel mug. So sporting one of the home teams here. I'm going to call on Joanna Beck, and I'm unmuting your line right now. Joanna's a consultant in the area and would love to just hear, how things are going for you and your clients.
Things are, they've changed, obviously. So now we're focusing more on the tactical, how to fix it right now instead of holistically. And so we're just focused on the quick hit, kind of what I like to call the process SWOT instead of the whole process discovery portion of it. And how can they reach people where they are now? How can they tweak their operations so things can keep running, or change their operations to meet the needs currently, right? So the whole takeout, online, drive up, that kind of thing. How can you fix it? And so just it's a lot more pivoting and quick hits and stuff like that. But, you know, now is the time to look at how your operations are running. And for people who have downtime, it's a great time to look into that and discover how things are running and to fix it. And for people who are feeling overwhelmed, it's a great time to just go in and tweak it and fix it so that they have a little less stress in their lives.
Cool, thank you. Back to you, Keith.
And well, Joanna, that looks fantastic with that thing behind your head.
Yeah, it looks like you have a crown on.
Yeah, I sat, so I'm in my dining room and the natural light kind of progresses throughout the day depending on the windows. And so I move my seat depending on what time of day it was. And I sat here last week for a meeting and somebody mentioned that it looked like I had a crown on. So I figured this would be the perfect setting for me to have my crown on again.
So
The Queen City.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that more Queen City or is it more Lady Liberty? If you hold the torch, could you hold your hand up like this
I could hold the light.
for just a moment?
Yes.
Hold on to the lamp. See the lamp? That is.
Yeah, there you go.
That's fantastic. Hey, let me unmute Ryan Roberts with Bustled. Ryan, why don't you pop in and give us an update on what you're doing?
Hey guys, I'm Ryan Roberts, one of the founders of Bustled. So over the last month, obviously the wedding industry has been hit a little hard, but we have been working hard on a number of pivots. The first one we did within the first week of everything happening was more philanthropic and really selling merchandise to kind of help other wedding vendors that are struggling. Since then, we have actually spun up a virtual wedding planning program, as well as are in the process of spinning up a virtual wedding. So I think a lot of folks have seen here and there some Zoom weddings and things like that. We're working on something a little more streamlined, a little bit more flair with a wedding planner background. So more to come on that, but we're getting really, really close to going live with that and super excited about it.
Fantastic. Thanks for the update.
All right, I see Alan Fitzpatrick. He looks like he's on some type of cell tower. And so why don't you tell us what open broadband's doing and why 5G is not causing the COVID-19? I'll unmute you, Alan. There you go. Oh, it didn't go. There
Okay, thank you. Now I can. Oh, hi, everybody. I'm Alan Fitzpatrick. I am the co-founder and CEO of Open Broadband. We're an internet service provider. And no, we don't cause COVID-19. We provide high-speed internet primarily in underserved communities. So the scene that you see in the background is in northern Orange County, north of Hillsborough, where we're providing fixed wireless broadband service to the residents. For us, our demand for service has increased. As more and more people work from home, as the kids are at home doing online education, more and more people want broadband. We had a record-setting month in March, and we are doing even better in April. Customers that we currently have are also increasing their speeds, as what they found. What was a normal speed offering at the home was fine for entertainment, isn't quite good enough when you have a couple of the parents working from home on VPNs. So we've had a lot of people asking for more bandwidth. But that's our business. We just have seen an increase in demand across the board for broadband.
And I'm confused now. I can hear birds, and I don't know if it's coming from you or not. And I'm like, wait, maybe he really is on a cell tower.
Hey, just before we're going to keep going just for a minute. For those of you who just joined, though, I wanted to quickly show you what the run of show looks like. That we're doing this kind of social gathering for a second. In just a couple of minutes, we're going to transition into the small breakout groups. Once we get a critical mass, because while this conversation is great, obviously really hard to do in a large group. So we'll explain that in a second. But and Julie, I think you're up next, but I just wanted to show that to everyone real quick.
Thanks, Dan. All right, I saw that my friend Aru from Bot Splash just joined. So Aru, can you give us an update on how things are going for you all? And I got, there you go. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, weirdly, it's been better than than the first year. So this is our third year. So we've done a few pivots, changed a few things for the past 2 months. So the first thing we came out with when we saw everyone coming on Zoom is introduce video chat for our platform. The second, well, I'll take a step back. So for those of whom I'm meeting for the first time, we are a SaaS platform and we help enterprises with their text, web chat messaging, and other verticals for messaging, whether it's Facebook or Google messaging. So the biggest change we did this year around March timeframe was introducing video chat and screen share to the platform. And the reason being, everybody was working from home. They needed something to talk to their customers as well as internally arrange with their group mates. So that was it. The second one that we brought together as a team was pivoting our external B2C consumer chat to being a B2B internal chat. So any tech support tickets or help desk tickets. So we introduced that to 2 of our clients that were already using it with their customers. And the third one, which we did in April, mid of April, was move from mortgage industry into auto industry. Given auto might not be the best with all the things that are happening around with unemployment and all that, but auto dealership is one industry where everything happens face to face and in person. So there was a lot of gap for customer support because all of these salespeople were now moved at home or had to be home. So introducing web chat for some of the dealerships around town and getting them up to speed to handle the sales or incoming servicing appointment setup was one of the things that we pivoted as of last week.
Awesome. All right. Well, that kind of got a good a sampling of kind of some of the folks are here. Obviously, a lot of really interesting people. So we're going to launch into our small groups in a second. I want to do one thing really quickly. I want to launch a poll just to see who here. So some of you have done Zoom polls before, some of you have not. Give me a thumbs up if you all see a poll on your screen. You good? All right. Why don't you take that? And as you all are taking that for just a second, I'm going to explain our next segment. We've kind of gotten into a rhythm here doing this weekly, kind of like, I guess, a late night show. And one of the segments that spontaneously happened one week, almost by accident, was a segment called Photos of Keith Ludeman. So Keith obviously is one of our co-hosts here tonight. He shared a couple of photos from his childhood, which got everyone spitting beer out of their nose. And it quickly turned into a crowd-pleasing favorite. So as you finish taking the poll here, I'm going to turn it over to Keith for our segment on Photos of Keith Ludeman.
Yeah, and I would tell you, let me share the screen just a second. We actually had an increased budget this week, so we were able to, increase the budget to 25 cents. We actually now have a logo for this segment. Can everybody see my screen? Fun with photos, so it's a blast. So we'll run through these really quickly, and I hope everybody gets a laugh. I would caution you about having any beer in your mouth as this comes out, because this was me in, I believe, about 3rd grade. Yes, Dan, I can see your face. Oh my God, it's that was special. That was after the bowl cut that occurred. And Dan, thank you for that, because I saw that you were making fun of that pose, but I wanted to let you know that that's actually a fairly common pose for photographs. I was able to find one for Mike Davriev. So just so you know, I don't know why you're laughing. I'm sure if I look hard enough, I'll find one for you.
Same sweater, same background, it's crazy.
I think you're missing out on that. But, for those of you who don't know, I grew up in Seneca, South Carolina, and the son of a college professor, and college professors don't make that much money, at least they didn't back in that day. So you'll notice that, I let the hair grow out a little bit, but you'll notice the suit. And then about 3 years later, I'm actually wearing the same suit, but a cheesier mustache. So, you got to work hard to make him, and actually the same tie too. But just to let you know, if you work really hard as an entrepreneur, you can make things happen in your life. Since bank earnings were last week, I do want to show you a picture of Jamie Dimon. He had called me personally for dressing tips. And you can see we're all dressed alike. And in return, he let me get in the JP Morgan boardroom and actually give a small presentation, which was a whole lot of fun. But if you really work hard and try out, and this, I'll leave you the last one and let you Google it. Susan Anton, sometimes you meet the girl you had a crush on when you were in junior high, and you tell her, and she's very happy about it. So Google Susan Anton, and that's what happens, Dan, if you keep cutting your hair, no matter what happens in between.
That is a new high watermark, Keith. That was impressive. I like the tag team effort with Mike. Again, I think that will be ranked very high in the crowd-pleasing favorite segment of what we do. So thank you for that. Why don't you stop sharing your screen because I want to go back to our agenda. But a virtual round of applause for Keith Ludeman on that one. Love that one. And then we'll go and we'll do the agenda here one more time so you can see what we're all doing. Actually, I think I can.
Here, stop sharing. Here, actually, I found it.
There you go. It's the best part about being the host. I can actually force the stopping the screen share if I needed to. So that's kind of our social really light segment. This next segment, for about the next half hour-ish, we're going to break into smaller groups. We got a nice crowd of people here tonight. The interaction is great, but if you're not one of the people, it can get a little dull. And so we're going to break you out into breakout rooms of around 7 to 8 people. The goal is that while you're there, everyone gets a chance to talk. In your breakout room, the conversation is just amongst you. So whatever you put in the chat, whatever you're saying is just heard by you. There is a help button if you need help as a host. We can come to your room and help you out. And you also see us pop in just to check on things and how they're going. But the idea is that we want everyone to have a chance to do that and to have everyone share. And I think you'll get to meet some new people. In a room like this, I guarantee no matter how many people you know in Charlotte, in your breakout room, there's going to be somebody you haven't met before. And so we think this is a nice little formula for the virtual networking of continuing to meet new people in Charlotte. We'll give you some warnings as to when we want people to come back. And we'll do a resource segment at 5:15 that we'll talk about in terms of some things going on in Charlotte and making sure you're up to speed with what's going on. And at 5:30, we're going to do our CEO panel, which will be just fantastic. We have 3 just killer entrepreneurs here in Charlotte talking about how they're addressing the crisis, what they're thinking about, where they see their future. Keith's going to help us moderate that. So that's what we're going to do here in just a second. I think the next slide is for later on. Oops, let me see here. Oh, no, there we go. So I just kind of went through this. Here are the list of kind of icebreakers in your group session. If you get stuck on what to talk about, talk to the group about what your business is. Talk about new talent you learned kind of during the quarantine. What's your favorite COVID-19 stress reliever? Or what are you binging on Netflix or Hulu? So if you get stuck, there are some conversations starter for you. And there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and, and assign everyone into breakout rooms. Give me 1 second there. And all right, so when I do this, you should see a little invite to go to a breakout room. So go ahead and click on that button to go join your breakout room, please. And you will all be whisked away into Zoom land and your breakout room. And I'm going to share the results. So hopefully can you all see the results on your screen? Somebody give me a thumbs up. Hopefully good. So just going to scroll down with you. You can close that window whenever you want on your machine. And Jasmine, don't forget to take photos, please. But the kind of knowledge level is about where we were, although maybe even a little softer. People kind of feeling they're about average on their knowledge level. What have they applied for so far? Mainly PPP loans. That hasn't changed much. But a lot of good people kind of on the none of the above category. And then more and a growing number in that other capital segment that we've seen in past weeks. I guess we've also said on question 3, anyone who's applied for EIDL or thought they were going to has done it. Of course, if you haven't heard on the payroll protection plan, there is more money, another 380 billion or whatever the number was. So if you missed the first wave, that second wave is coming. So make sure you're working with your banker to get your application in and make sure you're all queued up to get that, because it is a great resource for the entrepreneurs that need it. Where we are on people thinking the North Carolina stay-at-home order is going to end. Interesting, most people say June, some July or beyond. It's technically supposed to end at the end of April, so I think most people are thinking only 30% are thinking it's really going to be over in May. So we'll see how that kind of nets out. And then what action people have taken with their employees, and most of them kind of staying on payroll and managing that. So, all right, so I'm going to stop the sharing on that, but I do want to launch one other quick poll, and this is the one for, and somebody give me a thumbs up if you got that poll. Aru, did you see that? I can see your screen. So Aru, give me a thumbs up if you got a poll. No? You got it. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, so there's another poll there. And if you all wouldn't mind taking that really quickly, that would be great. And this one is particular about, for an article on our entrepreneurs hiring right now? Our entrepreneurial companies hiring? Do they plan to hire, and kind of where they at? Eric, I know you asked on that. If you're not a startup, we're unfortunately for this one, we're just trying to get feedback from people who work at startups. So I know you may feel a little left out on that one. My apologies, but yeah, if you only fill it out if you are a founder or at an entrepreneurial company and you know what your company is doing in terms of hiring. Ryan Stone, founder of Smart Sky Solutions. I had to think of the company name for a second, Ryan. Said they just got their PPP money deposited, so it did work. I've heard a couple other folks that have gotten that. John mentioned he got their EIDL grant, which is great. So some good things are happening there. Thank you for those updates in the chat. We're about 45% answered, and that may be about right given the number of entrepreneurs here. So I'm going to give you one more second to finish the poll if you can. Jasmine, make sure you take shots when I share the results on this too, because we can share them with the Business Journal, please. All right. Press enter if you haven't yet, because I'm going to end the poll. All right. So I'm going to share the results. Hopefully you can all see the results now. So where are you? Yes, you have open positions. A full third, almost 40% of people saying they have open positions right now and they're hiring. Almost another 20% saying they're going to hire the next 90 days. So that's well over half, either hiring right now or going to be hiring soon, which is more than I would have thought. Second question on who's hiring, not surprising there, right? A lot of developer help, front end, back end help, some not hiring, and then no answer. So interesting. Well, thank you all for taking that. We appreciate it. I think if Laura, if you are here, and maybe Jasmine, you can help me with that. Find Laura and unmute her. Laura has something to share regarding Ventureprise's work. I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I just wanted to let everybody know we are actually currently taking applications for our Ventureprize launch summer cohort, which is our 6-week customer discovery program. It'll be virtual, and we're allotting and making some adjustments for that. But I think I've seen several of our alumni on here, so maybe let them raise their hands or if there's any questions. But basically 6 weeks, we take you through, learn the foundations, identifying your problem, having a problem solution fit, and looking at your target customer. So we'll start that May 13th, and applications are rolling and open now. I'll put in the chat room the link, and applications will close on May 10th.
Awesome, thank you for that. And then is it Christine from Amplify? Yep, there we go. If Jasmine, if you can unmute Christine Edwards.
Hi, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first public house that I have been visible. And the last ones I just kind of, watched in the background. I'm pretty new to the Packard Place community. I was lucky enough to get a fellowship, so I'm a new Packard Place fellow, and I'm just excited to be a part of this community. And one of the community resources that I wanted to share was really specific to my company that I started in 2018 called Amplify Charlotte, and we are all about community engagement and civic engagement and helping our communities grow with dignity. And so we are a social entrepreneurial firm. And so one of the things that we've had to do in this season is pivot, just like everyone else. Our firm is focused on enhancing the capacity of other businesses, municipalities, nonprofits, and corporations. So we do civic and community engagement plans for public projects. And that's the bulk of our work. The other side of our business is small business development. In earning our first couple of contracts, I learned that there's a lot of money being left on the table when it comes to minority and women-owned businesses earning these public contracts. And so we were going to have our first live event this weekend where we were going to be discussing how to land public local government contracts, and we were going to be hearing from 3 local business owners and 3 local experts in different industries. And so what we did was we took that 3-person panel and split it up and made it into 3 different lunchtime events so that people can join the conversation and learn something different each week. The conversation series starts tomorrow, and we're going to be hearing from LaPronda Span. She is the chief visionary architect of Lane Consulting, and she has contracts with Charlotte Water, a lot of public and private organizations. And that's going to be tomorrow at noon. The second one
and Christine, can you, when you're done, can you put a link in the general chat as well so that everyone can find the link there too? Sorry for interrupting.
No worries. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. The first one's tomorrow at noon. And then the second one is April 30th, again at noon. The second one, I'm going to be speaking with Nefertira Best. She is the Chief Communication Officer for Pride Communications. And Pride Communications, some of their, I guess, more well-known clients are Walmart, the local and regional Walmart affiliate here. They do the PR and marketing for them. And the third person I'm going to be speaking to is a diversity and inclusion consultant. So it's a little bit different. You know, we're talking about professional services, we're talking about consultants and small business owners, right? And so we're going to be discussing how can they expand their business with public work. And so I would love to have you guys join us. And I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat. For the record, the link is www.amplifycharlotte.com/events. And this is the logo. So if you see it,
wearing the shirt, I love it. Way to represent. All right, I'm going to go and put you back on mute. Thank you for that. And Christine did mention the Packard Place Fellowship. That is in the chat as well that Jasmine just put there. That's a fellowship we offer for free membership into the Packard Place community, and would love to have entrepreneurs have the opportunity to come there, especially when they're new, just getting started, where they maybe don't have money to pay for it. It's a free fellowship. We want to build the right community. That's the first and most important thing for us. So please apply and share news about that Packard Place Fellowship. It's been a great program for us. Next, I want to turn it over to Juan Garzon. And Jasmine, if you could unmute Juan for us, please. And Juan, as I mentioned, is the general manager of Charlotte Eno. And Juan, I am actually going to make you temporary co-host here. I'm going to make you a full-time co-host.
That's dangerous.
Woo woo! So you are now allowed to share your screen. So take it away, Juan.
All right, very good. And I will see if I can do this the right way. Did want to add there, since we were talking about companies that are hiring, we're actually putting together an article on startups that are hiring. In fact, we've heard from some that have actually ramped up hiring because of the industry that they're in or for whatever. We'd like to hear from you if you are that company. So I'm actually putting my email address there in the group chat. If you're a startup, tech company, innovative company, if you are hiring despite or even hiring more because of what's going on right now, we definitely want to know about it. So let me know, because we'd like to highlight the work that you guys are doing. So real quick with Charlotte Eno, these are popping up for you. One of the things that we did that Dan mentioned earlier is to put together resources that we're finding out there in a variety of categories and create this page here called COVID-19 Guides right here on Charlotte Eno. If you're not familiar, Charlotte Eno is a digital publication that covers all things tech, entrepreneurship, and innovation. So highly recommend going to charlotteeno.com to follow the different stories that we have, our events calendar, our job board, our startup directories, and everything. Well, one of the things that we did create was this sort of table of guides, and I'll put the link here in the group chat if you want to go to it directly. And each one of these has sort of a guide with resources for that particular topic. And one of the ones that I'm going to point out today is mentorship and support resources. One of the things that we have been adding here are local innovators, local entrepreneurs, local leaders who hold mentorship office hours. We've got some here from the Innovate Charlotte program here in Charlotte. We've got some here from Davidson, the hub up at Davidson, and a few others. But all of these people here, we've got, for example, Angel Rutledge, who's a great entrepreneur, advisor, and investor, David Worrell, Todd Bulow, Meg Seitz. All of these people have, if you click here, links to their Calendlies where you can schedule time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, they all have different schedules, but you can talk to them and get advice on finances, on legal questions. And they're all doing this free of charge for founders who need it. So this is a really, really fantastic resource here. And highly recommend that if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a founder and you have questions, if you need to bounce an idea off of somebody, if you need feedback on something that you're putting there, Todd Buelow said, don't ask about legal questions. So we definitely, you've got different experts here on different topics you can go to them for. So highly recommend you check this out, sign up for one of these, sign up for a couple of these, and get that feedback that you need and that advice that you need. We also have links to some other mentorship programs, including the Hurt Hubs, SCORE, CPCCs, Innovate Charlotte's. And of course, the ask that we're going to make every single time is if you know, or if you are an expert that is offering free office hours or know of a mentorship program that we should add, let us know. We're adding stuff to these guides all the time. So if you've got a resource in any of these categories, let me know, send it to me. I put the email address in the chat box and I'll add it through here.
That's awesome.
Another thing, oh, sorry, I was just going to really quick hit on a couple events.
Yeah, please.
If you follow the Charlotte Inno newsletter, it comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. We've got a couple different events that we post here, and it's some that I want to highlight. If anybody is familiar with Startup Weekend, right? Startup weekends all across the world have been canceled. They are doing a global Techstars virtual startup weekend this weekend. If you are looking to learn more about entrepreneurship, this is an amazing opportunity. You build a network all over the world, you get experts, you're put into a team. So the link is in the newsletter. I can send, if anybody has any questions about any of these, shoot me up, hit me up on the chat box. But it's the Global Online Startup Weekend happening this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I should also mention a webinar by SoGal on Saturday on breaking into venture capital. And of course, QC FinTech's Upward Momentum program on Monday, and several webinars by Flatiron School. And there's one coming up on Tuesday that's a coding workshop. And I'll also just leave you with this. I'm actually hosting an event tomorrow with DC Inno on startups and local businesses and how they can leverage the federal marketplace. Some really interesting questions here with a guy who's an expert in doing business with the federal government. And most entrepreneurs think that's not for me, but you'd be surprised at what industries, what size companies, even individual freelancers work that you can get with the federal government. So if you want to learn about that, it's on the DC Inno website, and that is tomorrow morning. And yeah, that's it, Dan. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, Juan, thank you for putting that together on Charlotte Inno. And by the way, if Dean Nolan, if Juan does not accept your LinkedIn request, there's no excuse that he didn't see it because we all saw that. So now you have to accept Dean Nolan's LinkedIn request. Otherwise, he's going to know you dissed him. So
clearly.
Let me do that. And Christine, we need to get you to send Juan an Amplify t-shirt because we need to upgrade him to an Amplify t-shirt for next week. You on that one? All right, fantastic. And then it looked like Paula had raised her hand. So Paula, I'm going to unmute you really here. Do you have a quick comment or something you want to talk about?
Hi, no, I actually was raising my hand to say what Laura's doing with Ventureprise is awesome. So
oh, fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fantastic program. So appreciate that. So, and good to see you, by the way. So,
you too.
All right, so let me put you back on mute, and then I'm going to share my screen and talk about what's next, which is the kind of the main event, I guess you would call it here. I can find it on this screen. Why is that not wanting to do that? Hold on 1 second, folks. Technology is wonderful when it works. There we go. We try that one more time to talk about what is coming up on our next segment of the Public House. There we go. So you should all see that here. So we normally do in our Public House, we do a kegside chat with an entrepreneur. And we've kind of varied it up a little bit now that we're doing Public Houses weekly. And so Keith Ludeman, one of our co-hosts tonight, as I mentioned for those you were on earlier, is the founder of Good Mortgage, who exited a couple years ago. Also now the executive director of Innovate Charlotte, kind of that umbrella entrepreneurship organization for Charlotte. had suggested putting together a panel of kind of top CEOs to talk about what they're experiencing, what they're thinking, how are they processing through this, how are they leading their teams. And so I thought that was a great idea. So Keith is really responsible for helping pull together this CEO panel discussion. And Keith, I'm going to turn it over to you and put myself on mute. Keith, you need to unmute though.
Yep, good. Well, I was doing my job unmuting Chris, John, and Derek, so I hope you're unmuted. If not, send me a text or raise your hand, and I'll get you back on. So, yeah, Chris, Dan, you may have to unmute him. I'm having a hard time.
I think can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I'm good.
You're good? Yeah. Cool. All right, we're rock and roll. Hey, this is going to be the easiest job moderating a panel ever with these guys because these guys are forward thinking. You've heard of them. You know, their companies are just exploding. So I've got one very simple question for them. And if you've got any questions for follow-up, make sure you put them in the chat. It really, and Derek, we'll start with you, then go to John, and then go to Chris. You know, what are you guys thinking about right now in your high growth company? What are you hearing from other founders? You know, what's next? What do you think the world's going to be like over the next 3 months, 6 months, a year? And Derek, I'll toss it over to you.
Well, thanks, Keith. It's always very responsible to toss a bomb over here and just let me to take it and run with it. Thank you very much.
You can handle that. I know you can.
No, I first off appreciate this opportunity. It's a first time for me at PPPH, and I think two of my co-panelists, John and Chris, are more experienced in the sector than I am, and I'm very glad Keith has put this together, and four of us are here, and great to see everyone. A lot of familiar faces here. Especially, I want to point out, Ernest, your bike in the room and all that video on the back is badass. Love it, man. Need to hit you up on how that thing works. So I think I go through the polling with what people are doing here, and I think that kind of reflects what the market and what the people are looking at it, right? So right now, this is I don't need to tell you this is unprecedented situation. This is really there. If somebody come to you of saying, "Hey, we got a playbook of how to go through this pandemic situation," I have to say, from everybody I talk to, that person is lying, because nobody knows what the situation is how long it will go. But what I started sensing about this as I chatted with Chris, chatted with John, chatted with Keith separately, and other folks here, it's really at the end of the day, what are we looking into this situation? So quite frankly, the way that I'm looking at it is like Winston Churchill said, don't let any crisis go on waste, right? If there's a crisis, there is an opportunity come along with it. That's the two sides of the coin, right? So think about this, 08, I've been here living through the 08. There's a lot of people going through different recessive times. It's really the attitude of an entrepreneur, especially I know people here are all entrepreneurial minded, and we're all trying to do something to build something out of here. But truly at this event, as what it is, we just need to rapidly adapt to this, right? Negativity doesn't help, pessimistic doesn't help. For us, it's the mind that we put together to think about how can we get to this stronger than before. And we will get through this, right? Regardless what it looks like, we will get through this. And what I'm hearing about this, I'll just finish my last thoughts around this, and I'll toss the bomb to John, who is there, who is awesome, sold it to Salesforce and go through all this fancy. I want to hear his thoughts about this. I think technology is leading the recovery. I firmly believe technology is leading the recovery, but it will fundamentally lead into an age where I start characterizing this a new BC and AC. Before COVID, after COVID, right? We will go into the AC, and 2020, if not 2021, will be AC1 after all this. Things will change. What we have seen in our line of business and when we're engaging with folks is the digitalization, digital transformation around corporate America, around corporate global is not a necessity. It's not nice to have anymore. It become a must. And a lot of the activity that happened in the past 4 weeks as we engaging with our customer in financial services, in pharma, in CPG, we have seen a significant amount of transformation of their business, forced transformation in their business, in moving everything virtual, in moving everything digital, right? So this may not be news to any younger generation like us looking into this. We've been living in the iPhone era. But what's fascinating to me is their forced expansion from a younger generation to more senior, to more older generation who has never been quick adopter to digitization, who has never used a Zelle to deposit or transfer money, who had never used a mobile banking app to deposit a check. But they are doing that now. And doing that now creates opportunity. Because trust me, the apps that we're looking at, the whole digitization we're looking at right now, is not there yet. The mobile deposit capping at $5,000, it's ridiculous, right? All this are creating a lot of opportunities in a digital world, I think faster and more than ever. And quite frankly, think about Zoom, right? I'm a friend with Eric, and Zoom is just starting. As we chatted on WeChat, Zoom is just a starting of digitalization. There's a lot of things we haven't done here in the new world, AC, that we're gonna look at it. And with this note, I wanna punt it to John, who has a very successful digitalization, map, anything business. And I wanna shift it to him, share his experience and knowledge around this. John?
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yep.
So fortunately or unfortunately, obviously I'm not in an operational role anymore for a business. So I am not directly experiencing the crisis management that a lot of the entrepreneurs are going through. But a couple observations for that I can take away from the entrepreneurs that I talk to, and I talk to entrepreneurs almost daily. It's one of the nice benefits of basically being in the position that I am now, is that I can interact with them and kind of glean the things that are on their mind. And a couple takeaways. I think Derek is right. There's a couple main takeaways. I think first, COVID-19 is a big accelerant, right? Digital transformation was happening anyway. It was just happening at a glacier pace, I think, in corporate America, and faster as you go down market. And this is really kind of fast forwarded that. And I think the fundamental changes in the way we do business, we're not going back to, right? You know, the analogy that I use is my 79-year-old mother refused to use Amazon or buy anything online. And now she's addicted to Amazon, right? All that retail business, all that, it's never going back to the local stores where she used to shop, right? That's just an example of the accelerant. So is what's going on with Zoom. So is a bunch of things. Now, there's always opportunity for entrepreneurs if you keep the right attitude and think about how you find your place or navigate your canoe in this river. I mean, I don't know who it's going to be, but I'll tell you right now, the next Amazon, Microsoft, or Google will be born out of this crisis, because one always is. If you look at every single crisis or downturn, one of the monsters came out of it, right? And that's going to happen out of this one too. There's going to be an opportunity. And it does go back to that fundamental thinking, basically, of what it means to be an entrepreneur, what it means to do business, how we structure our businesses. I think there are some industries that are going to be impacted negatively for the long term, right? I think right now companies are figuring out, you know, maybe shared workspaces aren't as necessary. So we work, and those guys may have some problems moving forward, right? But, you know, so those be some winners and losers that come out of this. I do agree technology has a huge part to play. And I think one of the places where it'll be kind of interesting is, you know, you always think about technology and digital transformation and the big macro businesses, whether it's logistics, finance, healthcare. But, you know, how do you take it downstream to the more traditional businesses, like the small businesses that are being most impacted by COVID-19 right now, the nail salons, the hairdressers. Like, where does technology fit and play into that? And what are the innovation that are going to come out to help those small businesses survive or basically thrive, right, through this crisis and the next one? Like, I think this is the era we now live in, and I don't think COVID is going to be a single event based on what the CDC is saying. It's this is going to be the new normal, and technology and entrepreneurs are going to have to help the world figure out a new way to do business under this new normal. Ken or Chris, I'm sorry. Any thoughts?
Yeah. No, thanks for that. So, I think I largely agree with what both of you have said already. I think maybe just a couple variations to put on it. I think from an entrepreneur's perspective or from a business leadership perspective, there's the view that we have to have internally with how we lead our employees and making sure that we're doing the right things to support them. So I think that's obviously one thing, and that's been a very fluid and dynamic situation that we've all had to continue to adjust to. I do agree with the sentiment that this isn't just going to be over in May or June or July or whatever you think the end month is. And the new normal is going to be a new normal. It's not going to be the old normal, and it's not going to get back to the way that things were very quickly. So I do think that as entrepreneurs, everybody needs to be prepared for this to go on for a while and to continue to make adjustments and hopefully, take care of your people as much as you can. From a business perspective, I do agree that there is opportunity in finding new ways to leverage technology with all of the changes that have been going on. Obviously, no one would wish a global pandemic on the world, but the fact that we're presented with the situation that we're in now absolutely is a call to action for us to do some things differently. I think just to kind of build off of what John said around digital transformation, it is true that it was happening at a glacial pace, but I think the other problem for a lot of companies is that it was what I've been calling either fake digital or lip service digital. People saying they were doing it, but not doing it for real. And they could get by with that in the old world, but that doesn't work anymore. So I do think that there is a lot of change that we're going to see happen. It's already happening, but it'll continue to happen, that affects both the enterprise and thinking about the way that they adopt digital and how the priorities are made around digital versus maybe some of the old ways of doing things. I think the other thing that's going to change really, really rapidly is to the point that Derek was making around the adoption of Zoom and people who historically haven't used some of this technology. I think there's going to be entirely new business opportunities that get created, entirely new revenue streams that are created from things that people just have never thought of, right? Like the consumerization of Zoom, the fact that you've got group fitness happening in Zoom meetings, the fact that you've got people trying to order food for delivery or for takeout on Instagram. There's all sorts of new things that are going to be unlocked by this. I think we have to be real about the fact that the economic impacts of this are going to be long lasting, and that from a broad consumer's perspective in the US and globally, that that's got to affect spending. It's going to affect the economy for a while. But yeah, there's absolutely going to be ways that new businesses are created from this.
Keith, you're on mute there.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, I think I unmuted you. I want to take it back to you for a second. So looking forward a little bit, because all of you have office space, and Chris, I love your background. I'm assuming it's still your office space. We're going to see things unfold over time, especially with more antibody testing, and let's assume that it's going to be early next year before we get a vaccine. What are your thoughts about returning to the workplace once we get opened up again? There's going to be a couple categories of people. There's going to be people that don't have a fever. There's people that maybe have a fever, or people that have had COVID and have recovered, and it's still an open question whether they have antibodies and whether they can be affected again. What are your thoughts about opening up the workspace? Derek, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with examples, right? We are a global company, so we actually have over 40 people in Beijing, China. If we all think about where this thing starts and where it got heavy hit, it was China side, right? So the government guideline was about, I would say like 4 weeks ago, that after 3-month lockdown or quarantine, however way you want to call it, they're asking the people to start resume work. I would say it's not a pretty sight. I don't want to paint the picture because again, it's the unknown piece of it, right? To your exact point, Keys, is that we don't know what is the next door or people that are around us in the office space, fundamentally, whether they carry COVID or they don't, right? Given how contagious this thing is, there's always that lingering human level. It's emotional level of a workspace. That's where I start seeing what things have changed. So I think the way that we are looking at, barring our China office experience, right, we definitely start doing more rotations, right? Functional group rotations. If we're not just arbitrarily saying, hey, 50% of employee can come to the work at any given day and rotating the other 50%, our operational team in there actually came up something I think is pretty smart, is that they will do business units, right? They will invite the different business units come in and to the maximum capacity in the office, maintaining the distancing within the office. And one of the better thing of that is we prepared all the PPEs for our employee. So everybody has masks. There is mask in the office that they can come in and pick and put it up. So people there are pretty much a stickler to wearing mask in the office space, given that they just go through and witness the severity of this. And they'll be kind of following that, not just a social distancing. They're not physically just distancing themselves. It's more like protective gears and everything. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of thoughts came in my mind in the past couple weeks. We've been working from home for 5 weeks now. It's really the human mindset, right? Once we go back, I would love to hear Chris' mind about this as well, because he has a large operation team in the Uptown gorgeous office, as you see there, gorgeous. We probably, as a company, we probably are preparing ourselves to give our employees the personal protective gears, so that when they come in, we'll start spacing them in a more safer distance, and then really to again, this is where I'm seeing this is. I have to say this is I'm open for ideas, but the point being here is things are changing, right? One of the things that is changing is a large portion of my employees love to work from home. They're very productive. They're fully dialed in. And then the question is, do we even want to force them or ask them to go back to work, which I think is not a good option there. And the other piece of this is that when people go into work, what is the workspace going to look like? Why do people need work? That's more fundamentally a shift in terms of the workspace designs, more focus on creativity, more focus on huddling, but with full caution. That's for sure. We need to be a full caution, so that in my mind it's the safety and the health of every employee is the most important. Before we got a vaccine, I don't think anybody will feel that extremely confident and safe in the AC era. Chris?
Yeah, echo a lot of your thoughts. So first, thank you on the comment on the background. It is a virtual background, so I'm not violating any Mecklenburg County health rules at the moment. But no, I think, for us, although we don't have a big international presence like Derek, we do have folks in New York, we have folks in DC, we have folks in Atlanta, Raleigh, New York, San Francisco, Phoenix. And so we're thinking about things on a very local level. Absolutely, the number one priority, kind of the guiding principle here, is the safety of our employees and making sure that they're all healthy. But we have to evaluate each one of those cities and geographies as kind of its own thing. So there's a factor of like what's going on locally. Obviously, New York is very different than Charlotte. There's also the factor of Charlotte's a really large office and some of the offices are smaller. So how do we think through how to balance that? And I think to the point that you made, Derek, our view is largely the same, in that it's not going to be a light switch where the rules change and all of a sudden we all rush back into the office. We have to be smart about how we rotate people through. and making sure that we've got the right PPE for people given the circumstances for the environment that they're in. That's one dimension of it for us. The second dimension for us is because we are a consulting and services firm, some of our work happens in the office, and some of it can happen, a lot of it can happen remotely if we want it to, and if the client wants it to. But we also have client needs that we have to be sensitive to. So how we approach that is also something that we need to think through on a client by client and geography by geography basis. Again, it's going to be guided by the fact that we have to keep our employees safe. But as an example, we do a lot of work that, while it is digital, it has ramifications in the physical world. So as an example, we do a lot of work in the cold storage and logistics space. As much as we love writing code, the reality is these things run conveyors and layer pickers, and there's a lot of physical things that have to happen for that to work. And so for us to do that work, some people may actually have to be on site. So thinking through how we account for that is part of it. And again, it's a lot of it's going to be very geography specific. I think the timeline that you guys have suggested is right. I mean, we're going to be dealing with this for a while. We have to be prepared for the fact that there could be a second spike. So, what we do in June or July may be different than what we find ourselves doing in October or November if there's a resurgence of the virus.
Hey, John, do you have any feedback? I know you're not running your company anymore, but I'm sure you're talking to folks maybe at Salesforce. So do you have any insight of what they're doing?
Well, Salesforce shut down all their offices until well into July, so they have no intention of bringing it back. And even then, it's voluntary. So they had a pretty liberal work-at-home policy to begin with. And given that they're a digital, they are the digital company, the whole concept of them needing to go into the office, especially what they do, is fairly unnecessary. But I think one of the things that, just as entrepreneurs and business operators, that we definitely have to think through, and again, this being the new normal, is, a lot of times, I know you myself in the past where I wasn't feeling well, you do almost the noble heroic thing, like it doesn't matter, I'm going to go to work anyway. We're going to have to reprogram the mindset of basically the collective society. And that's like a uniquely American thing, by the way. My foreign employees, if they had sniffles, they'd stay at home, right? And maybe that has to do with basically how much paid leave we offered as a benefit. But we're going to have to kind of start working to our business plan, again, this new normal, about how much paid leave we have for sick, the mental attitude we have about working in a condition when you're not feeling up to snuff, the necessity to a certain number of group meetings. Just in the last couple of years, I bet we could all think of a whole bunch of conference room meetings where there's 10 to 20 people in the meeting, but was it really necessary, right? Either A, be there, B, to even have the meeting to begin with. Your office is lovely in the background. It's a wide open space, but just in general, human density in some of these offices are designed around, I can't remember, but I think it was 100 square feet per employee. Well, is the new normal going to be 250 square feet per employee, so that we can account for these spikes in contagion or whatever happens as we go through this? And I love what you said about the lip service to digital transformation versus really doing it. And I think in some cases, small businesses were, since they, especially startups, they started in the digital era, so all their systems were virtual. And so it made it a lot easier through this transition. But, I think, as we move forward as a collective group and from what I've seen, I kind of think that we need to be a lot more serious. I know I wasn't as much serious about our continuity business plan. Like, I know we didn't do a continuity business plan for disaster planning until the last month before we were actually acquired. It was for an insurance policy reason, because it's silly to think that a global pandemic could shut down all business globally for 3 months. Like, that would never happen, right? And I think a lot of companies didn't actually do, the management teams, the executive teams didn't do the thinking through having these plans in place. So a lot of us got hit a lot of my entrepreneurs relationships got hit pretty hard. And I think that just this idea of a continuity business plan to go along with the digital plan is just going to have to be living documents that we actually kind of adapt into one of the core principles of how we operate. if you want to continue to operate, which, again, I do kind of think this is going to start being the new normal.
Yeah, that's great feedback. So here's one of the questions I've got from the crowd, and we'll do the circle again with Derek. I saw a study that, make sure you're unmuted. I saw a study that people are saying it's 30% increase in productivity because people are working from home. Are you seeing that with your folks? I know you've had some folks working at home before, but are you feeling more productive yourself, and are you feeling your employees are more productive after, of course, the first reaction period where everybody was in shock for a couple of weeks?
Me?
Yep, Derek, let's start with you.
Yeah, so one of my remark with our team, we could do a weekly business updates. And really, I remember that line, just one day I wake up, and this is true to everybody, I would imagine. We were running on adrenalines since March 11th, right? We've been running on adrenalines. It's a human nature. We're back at it. We're the 2 weeks, 3 weeks mark, and it wears off. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're running adrenalines 24/7, probably not good for your health. And same thing as every employee in our organization, right? So it wears off. And then it's really start taking things one step at a time to get back to the new normal. So to your exact point, in terms of productivity, I would say this is department by department, if I may, right? Going to this where I'm looking at teams that are already more in a virtual world. I think with both John and Chris' point, right? We are a technology company. We're more product driven, right? We got more engineers, and we already set up a US, EMEA, and China kind of a tripod of our workforce. Engineering team are very close to this, right? They're all very close to getting used to kind of communicate virtually. They're always on Slack. You go to that room, they're quiet. And now they rolled up their bed and just go to the laptop, start working. Of course, there is productivity gain, right? They don't have to commute anymore. As a fact, matter of fact, we have a technical support engineer who lives down in, I think, Matthews. I was doing my weekly check-in with everyone individually, and he was like, "This is great, Derek. I saved 2 hours every day, right? I got more time with my kids, with my family, with my wife, but I also can do more work." So there's the merits to it. Now, on the flip side, if you look at to Chris' point, that has the more human touch in part of the business, that is on the sales funnels, that's on the SDRs, that's on the top of the house. Their things are changing, right? There are things changing because that personal bond in person will be a lot more different now, right? I can't go to your place and handshake with you, elbow bump, or even I saw crazy people start doing feet bumps. It's just that touch is no longer there. And I think they're rapidly adjusting to that, right? So there is productivity change. I'm just really saying this is kind of department by department. And I honestly don't think this is a personality thing. This is the other piece where I look at this. This is not personality. I believe people are very professional in terms of business world, whether you're introvert, you're extrovert, it's the same group setup, but it really goes back to the organization. Like echo to John's point on this is, it really goes back to the organizational structure, how we can maximize their productivity, because they sure are different in different functions there.
That's great. Chris, are you still off?
Yeah. Yeah, I think just to jump in, I think, one thing I would say is it's unfair to judge, I think, how much or how productive people can be working remotely in the current circumstances. I don't remember who said this quote, so I can't take credit for it. But a quote that I heard a couple weeks ago was, it's not like we're all working from home. We're all at home trying to work during a global pandemic right now. And so those are two different things, and it's a different bar. And some people, to their credit, are absolutely able to be more productive. And that's great, but I don't think it's fair to judge if someone can't be more productive or if they're less productive in the current circumstances. It's totally understandable why that could be the case. I think, if anything, what this has done is forced companies and forced individuals in some cases to adapt to how to work remotely in cases where they probably could have done it and they just either didn't want to or just chose not to for some reason. So I think that will introduce the flexibility of remote work in some cases where it didn't exist before. But I think that, you know, whether someone can be productive under better circumstances in a remote environment, you can't really prove it out here. But my hypothesis and what I've seen previously in my career is that some people are built for it, some people aren't. Some roles are okay with it, some aren't. And that's the thing that we're all having to navigate. I think, you know, on my leadership team, I've got one guy who leads a pretty large team who loves working remotely. He's, you know, his productivity has gone through the roof. He thinks this is great. But I think for a lot of us, you know, we're, as much as we might like working from home sometimes, like I know I was on the phone with Derek 2 weeks ago, and it was like 8:30 in the morning and we were both already out of our minds, you know, and that was only 3 weeks in. Now we're 5 weeks in. So I think, you know, when things get back to the new normal, we can rejudge it. But I do think, yeah, in general, I think some employers are going to have figured out how to do remote work and they'll make it available. Some as a matter of practice just don't want to go back to it, and they'll be stuck in the old way of doing it.
You know, one of the things that I hope actually comes out of it, though, and for my two fellow panelists who are still operating, is maybe one of the reasons I think we're more productive is it's all those things that when you're in an office environment, an office dynamic, that winds up being large time sinks or a waste of time. It's the unnecessary meeting. It's the 10 minutes before, the 10 minutes after that meeting that you wind up bullshitting, which you might say is, okay, that's the human interaction that makes the work worthwhile, right? But you know, even when you go back from working at home to work in the office environment, I think it's an opportunity to evaluate and say, okay, for the job roles that did get a heck of a lot more productive, right? What about that isolation or that work at home? What piece of it can we kind of take into the way we operate in the office environment so that we can, you know, maybe have some productivity roll over, or what things were honestly unnecessary or not worth doing? I think field sales is going to change dramatically. I know a lot of people in technology sales, obviously I've got huge, deep relationships there. You know, they're doing quite well, just realizing that, you know, maybe I didn't need to get on an airplane 2 times a week, 3 times a week. Was that really necessary? You know, as they continue to build their pipes and, you know, continue to sell and do what they're doing. Or, you know, other people in IT security are saying, hey, without the fact that I can multitask when I'm in my group meeting means that I'm getting, you know, 40%, you know, more productive, because normally I was in meetings all day and then I'd have to do my work. But now I sit in the meeting on one side of the computer and I actually do the work on the other. And actually, hey, I'm participating and I'm getting it done. I'm a lot more productive. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we can't take some of the good of kind of the forced work at home and kind of work it into the new kind of dynamic and new social dynamic of the office environment. Opportunity to learn.
John, that's great, because that's one of the questions I got from the crowd is, how do you think field sales is going to change? Because, you know, it used to be a huge part of sales was showing up, being face to face.
Yeah, I think this actually creates a fundamental shift in that. I think that some people realize that a lot of that was, you know, all sales was, you know, was relationship based, right? And there's some truth to that, but I think for sure that every company is realizing that, you know, business can be efficiently done digitally and remotely. When you see traditional car dealers advertising on TV, hey, we'll sell you the car over the phone and bring it to your house, something you never thought you'd see, you know, the world is changing. And I don't think that goes back as people realize that they can be more productive. You know, I know a particular company, one of the ones I'm involved in, you know, obviously they can't do any field visits, so they doubled down on their, basically their call center salespeople, and their sales are up 30% year over year, month over month. So, you know, they're starting to question, hey, do we even put people back in the field when this thing gets over?
Is that Salesforce? So their stock's going through the roof or something else?
No.
Oh, darn. Yeah.
I know, echo John's point, just if I quickly add to John's point, right? So the fundamental theme where I really agree with John there is where before I got a sales leader and talk to me that, hey, if you ever in doubt, go visit a customer, right? That's the personal touch you want to go with this. Nowadays, where I really extended that of saying, if you're really in doubt, put more minds into your product. Right? In the digital world, you're selling a product that can be sold digitally. to John's exact point, right? If we're in the tech business, if we're in the sales, Chris is the same way, right? It's an implementation, it's software. And fundamentally what changes my mindset in terms of field of sales right now is, as a tech product company, if your product is not built well enough to sell through the phone calls or sell through them coming to your website and get it done, then you probably want to spend more time. This is time to look into the product more and dive deeper in that to make it better, right? So of course there are big line of business. I'm speaking just in my swim lane here, but I do hear what John is saying. That is changing, right? That whole spectrum is changing.
Yeah, and Derek, I agree, and John, I agree with you too. I think what, if anything, this has forced us to do too, is to make sure that you can convey the value that you're creating to the customer or to a prospect much more crisply without the distraction, which in some ways is a good thing, but in some ways it's a bad thing in that it distracts you from your message, and it also distracts the customer. Like, is the customer there because she really wants to meet with you, or like, is the cup of coffee really like that good that, maybe you're going to have the conversation, but not actually lead to a productive conversation. So I do think that in some ways it's focused that part of the sales process in a way that cuts away some of the stuff that can be distracting. The other thing I just wanted to add on the previous point is, I do think from a remote work perspective, it's also made it so that you're thinking about remote workers first. I mean, and I can speak even for us, we had people in lots of offices, and we always tried to be conscious of, hey, does this work? Does this interaction work both for someone who sits in Charlotte, but also for the person who works remotely 100% of the time from Kansas City? And, I think we thought that we got that right, probably a little bit more than we actually did. And this leveling of the playing field where everyone is now remote has really forced us to think through that. And so as an example, like tomorrow, we've got our quarterly business review for all of our employees internally. And we've basically rebuilt a virtual interaction system for after the meeting, so that people can get together, around tables and have a drink the way that they would if they were, in person. So I think it's forcing not just that the sales tactics to change in externally facing ways. It's also forcing the internal tactics around how you engage with your workforce to work like that too.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, you guys, you're providing so much good information. So we got about 5 minutes left. I want to do a quick one-on-one, and then I'll toss this to all of you. So I want you guys to add in kind of what your best nugget of wisdom is. But Derek, before you give your best nugget of wisdom of what you've learned through this whole experience, you got to tell us about the new haircut and why you have the new haircut. I think it's a great story.
No, hey, there's no wisdom from my side. I'll tell the story and stop right there, full stop. Like what John was saying, right? So we were going to the March time period where we start converting to full work from home. The department that got hit is the sales development rep, right? The people that in our call center booking meetings and everything. So I had a bad wisdom. If they can get 25 meetings in the first half of April, I'm going to shave my head. By the way, I don't have Dutch hair anyway, so my board member even commented, buddy, you have nothing to lose when losing that bad. I'm just glad to say 2 weeks in, I have to shave my head. So they look at this, it's very, I'm super excited to lose that bet. And quite frankly, it's liberating. I have nothing to maintain here. It's just so easy. But one thing to add to this, I know I saw a question there, but I do believe one thing that came out of this COVID, that one of the area I think will boom is the mental health space. I firmly believe in that, right? There's a lot that will go on from this. It's because now it's to Chris' point, right? We even as a company made the point of saying, hey, we want a lot of people to enter the same roof to foster that social interaction. But we start seeing that social interaction getting more deepened when they're actually remote. So now we actually have people after 5 p.m., they will schedule a one-on-one Zoom meeting to talk to the colleagues about themselves, about spouse, about kids, about pets, about anything. And also the other piece, look at this. I'm in my patio. I'm looking at this, right? In the work setting, you never has this. You never have that personal connection, that space. So mentally and kind of relationship wise, it's going to shift. There's a lot that can come out of this. My whole point of this, only thing I keep myself is keep a schedule. Keep a schedule. I go to gym at 5:30 before, I still wake up at 5. And just like force myself to keep that schedule. That's only one thing, keep myself sane. And that's it. I'm going to punt it off and shut up.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, John, I want to talk to you. I'll unmute you. Hey, what I want you to share before you share maybe your, the best thing you've learned or what you think is next. You're exited. All the stress of being a founder and entrepreneur is gone. And I know it took me a while to adapt to that. How are you doing with that? And especially with all the stress of COVID, what do you think?
Well, I mean, so look, I exited about a year ago. And it's a few things that you kind of you look back on and realize that, it was the journey as much as the destination, right? Like you realize that some of the good stuff was also some of the high stress situations and, those dynamics. And that certainly is irreplaceable with regards to, what I do on a day-to-day basis. But at the same time, it's great because I have the opportunity to play the role that I'm playing now, which is I talk to a lot of CEOs, I talk to a lot of executives and startups, and I get to share what wisdom I have and some of the lessons learned along the way, my experiences, and that's great. And, I certainly do miss that, the actual growth stage of it, right? I mean, it gets to a certain point in the startup where, it's an appropriate time to exit and, you start kind of looking for that, that goal line. But I'll be, I'm going to probably be getting back into it from an operational standpoint in about 6 or 7 months. I got some things going.
Cool. So Juan, you didn't hear that with the Business Journal, so make sure we don't write that down right now. But hey, Chris. Well, thanks, John. I appreciate you sharing that. Hey, Chris. What's your most interesting learning going through this over the past month or so, and where do you think we'll be in a couple months?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think probably the biggest piece of learning or kind of insight that I can give is that in times like this, when the whole world is changing around you and business is fundamentally changing and employees are going through tough times, it requires different leadership tactics. And I think being open to figuring out how do you engage with the team and motivate the team in a way that's constructive. I think as leaders, we have to be introspective about how to do a good job at that. There's been a lot of talk on LinkedIn and with some people on Twitter about, like wartime CEOs versus peacetime CEOs. And I hate that terminology. I think that's terrible. It does a disservice, I think, to the people who actually have been in wartime. But I do think that there's something to be said for being able to look at the situation and adapt how you're interacting with people. And especially in times like this, I think it's important to check in with employees in ways that are probably different than what work in normal times. And so I think you have to spend time mentally kind of evaluating that. And as tempting as it is and as important as it is to be focused on the business and doing what you have to do to operate, and this applies across the board, whether you're a entrepreneur, a leader, a manager, an individual contributor, a community member, whatever, right? Like you have to keep doing what you need to do to stay alive and be safe and run whatever it is that you're responsible for. But I think also trying to find the time in the day to say, what do I need to do differently? How do I improve? Recognizing that things are different, I think is super important too.
Oh, that's awesome.
On that one point, by the way, on one takeaway from this that I hope, and I think something that you just mentioned, Chris, as well as I think something on the chat. Something that is going to come out of this that I hope that we adopt into our normal business practice as leaders is all of a sudden we're all very interested in everybody's mental well-being and whether or not they're feeling isolated. But before this happened, did we ever go to those employees and ask them, do you feel isolated from your fellow employees? Are you feeling like you're fitting into the team dynamic? And, you know, that's something that we're very sensitive to right now because of the situation where we're all in lockdown. But, you know, I think it can be a huge plus if we adopt, you know, take that and adopt it into the normal operating rhythm of how we do business moving forward and whatever the new normal is going to be. Because, you know, a lot of times that is a productivity sink. You know, one of the reasons people aren't as productive as they are, or, you know, as leaders we fail and they leave the company, is because they don't feel like they're meshing into the team, or they feel isolated from, you know, or they don't, you know, they're not, you know, they're not feeling empowered in a way because they are feeling separate. And I think that is a mental health issue that I think we can address a lot better.
Yeah, 100%, John. And to your point, is what you just said is a light bulb in my head of saying this. It's not really, when you're in the workplace, it's really not about your physical distance. Now we're proven it's more like your mental distance between each other, right? I sit next door to somebody else doesn't mean we know each other, but this is a different time to rethink, and I appreciate that.
Guys, I can't think of a better sentence to wrap it up. And this has been fantastic. Thank you for your time. For the rest of the crowd, can you give them a virtual round of applause? Thank you for taking the time for this. And Dan, I'll toss it back to you.
Keith, thanks for that. Guys, that was all just awesome. I know everyone is super busy and crazy, but you can tell from the attendance tonight and the interaction on the questions, people really did appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking the time to go do that. So that's awesome. And I think people got a lot out of it. A couple of just quick things I want to go down before we let everyone go, because we've been able to go down through another Packard Place Public House time. We have an event coming up on Monday, which is called Upward Momentum. QC FinTech Class 12 got its first weekend, and then everything went virtual. So that we sent everyone home on, I think it was Thursday, March the 12th, back to their home cities and the founders. And so a way of engaging with Class 12 folks to continue to help them forward as they, as FinTech entrepreneurs, are dealing with the crisis and figuring out how to lead their teams and move that forward. We are also going to use that time, though, to have a panel discussion with another group of FinTech founders who have already had some success and are trying to move their business forward. So similar to what the conversation we just had here. And then we're also going to be launching what's called the Alpha Labs program. Caitlin Carpenter just put her email in the chat. Caitlin is our program manager, and Caitlin can help you get the invite code to this. It is an invite-only event, so we don't publish it widely. But if any of you are serious and wanted to come and help out, we'd love to have you. So email Caitlin for the code. And we're going to be launching the Alpha Labs program, which is where we take kind of everyday end users, if you will, who are willing to give a little time to help FinTech founders test out their UI, their UX, and how it's working, and give them feedback. So you don't need to have particular expertise in UI or UX. You have to have a desire to want to help entrepreneurs give honest, candid feedback as a consumer or someone who might be a consumer of their product and be willing to spend a little bit of time doing that. So please direct message Caitlin Carpenter or go ahead and copy her email out of the chat, because the chat does go away. Although I think you can save the chat, but the chat does go away when the conference ends. And that's on Monday from like 1 to 6 p.m. And then a couple other upcoming events we're just trying to highlight here on the Public House and some other, there's the Amplify event that we talked about. And I want to do one last thing before everyone takes off on it, because we will get everyone out on time. Can everyone give me a thumbs up if you got that last exit poll? Hopefully you all got that. Just trying to feel about how you feel about tonight's Public House. Would love to get some feedback from you on, are we doing the right things? Do you want to see something different? There's a little bit of a question on each segment. So there's an overall, there's a kind of a net promoter score, right? We're good entrepreneurs. We know net promoter scores. And then some questions on the different segments. Just getting some feedback on how you all feel about it. Would love to do that. And would really encourage you to invite your friends to come along to the Public House. Talk about it with people, bring people along. You know, it's a great opportunity to, what do they call it now? Drinking alone together. So you're not really drinking alone if you're on a web chat with a whole bunch of people, right? You can have a beer and not feel guilty about it. And we've always kind of joked in our Packard Place Public Houses that we kind of wrap up when the beer is empty, or at least my beer is empty, which I'm getting close to the end of that. So everyone wanted to wrap up and make sure they put in that poll results for us. We're about 70% voted. Would love to see everyone who's on the line give us some feedback on that. So there's a couple stragglers out there who are not giving feedback. So please go ahead and take the poll here really quickly if you can. And the last thing I'll say is that when you get out of binging on Netflix or Hulu, all the past Packard Place public houses are online and they're there. And Derek, I love the fact you're here, but I gotta call you out on this, man, because you said you had never been to a Packard Place public house before. You were one of our guests, Derek. You were actually been a guest. So maybe you've never attended as an attendee, where you've actually done one in the past, and you can watch Derek Wang's Kegside Chat with the public house on there. A number of other folks here have done it. I know Keith Ludham has done it. I saw Angel on earlier, Angel Rutledge. Angel's done it, and some other folks. So a great opportunity to watch that and share that with everyone.
Yeah, and one last point, if I can jump in for 5 seconds for everybody to leave this with a laughter. Put on your glasses, Dan. Put on your glasses.
Hold on. Here we go. You ready?
Yes. Look, I find my twin brother. There you go.
Separated at birth is what they say.
There you go.
And I shaved mine voluntarily, though. I didn't get a good bet out of it. So we almost got 80% in the poll, so that is great. So we will we'll end that poll. And that is taking us to 6:30. So we start on time, we end on time, have a drink, have some great conversation. Thanks for everyone who helped make this happen, all the people who jumped in on conversations other, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks so much.